So, first of all, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people with experience with Agile already, so this is going to be a bit of like, rehashing obvious things. But just in case, I want to introduce kind of like how we approach Agile and why we bother to do it. And for us, the major difference between Agile and what many times our customers are doing, which is just straight up waterfall, is how we address risk. And the longer one goes without releasing a product, the risk of it being the incorrect product for your users and for your business increases with the time that you do not actually get it to market. So here, this red line represents, say, a project, whether it's waterfall or another methodology that just has not been released yet, and yet we do not know if it actually is going to work. And then the moment it actually does release, if that's been, say, a year or 2 years, for example, if any of the assumptions behind that product happen to be wrong, well, then we may have just wasted 2 years. So our goal with Agile methodologies and our other methodologies is to regularly decrease risk and prevent it from ever getting too far by releasing frequently and learning frequently. So this is the build, measure, learn cycle that is so often referred to in Agile. In our case, we're trying to, whether that's building software or even on the design side, building like, designs before software, we're trying to measure it regularly and learn from that and incorporate it into what we do next. So let's see, moving forward. So at the heart of that, obviously there's many different flavors of Agile, but one thing I think we often come back to when working with our clients is emphasizing the principles behind it all, because in the end, those are the most important aspects of deciding what practices you should and shouldn't do, and whether the practices you are choosing to do are actually working for you. So just to quickly go over that, the idea is that the things on the left are valued more than the things on the right. Not to say that the things on the right are not valued, but rather if we have an opportunity to emphasize one over the other, we try to put our emphasis on the things on the left. So for example, at the top of that, individuals and actions over processes and tools. In many cases in our working realities, we have to use tools and existing processes inside of our companies to communicate with people, and that can often create friction. And so in our choice of practices, we put an emphasis on individual conversations and the actions of individuals, like Erica was talking about, where when we make decisions as a team, as opposed to having a set fixed process for how we have to do it. Likewise, we value working software over comprehensive documentation, which is if what we build itself can serve as the documentation, then we don't need to bother working as a documentation. And the amount of documentation we have to create can be greatly reduced. So we try to take that into consideration when thinking about our practices. With customer collaboration over contract negotiation, we realize that if we promise something that we learn is wrong later, we will be trapped and unable to actually deliver a good result. So in order to ensure that we don't incur a large amount of risk over time, we need to emphasize the ability to have flexibility and focus on what is actually needed for the user and the business versus what we promised in a plan before we knew that existed. Which links up great to the last one, responding to change over following a plan. Because while plan can be helpful, it also does not have the latest learnings in it. So part of being Agile is allowing change to exist in your process and responding to it in a timely manner. So from here, Summer is going to talk a little bit about XP, our favorite flavor of Agile.
Thank you, Kenyon. So now we have learned the core values and principles of Agile. Here comes the question: how do we build Agile teams exactly? What are some Agile frameworks out there? Here you go, Scrum. I saw some people said yes to Scrum. This is probably like one of the most widely used Agile frameworks. Kanban, extreme programming, which is also called XP. This is what Pivotal Labs we normally do. Crystal, Lean, feature-driven development, and many others. So I know when speaking of Agile, people tend to think of Scrum as it's a really popular framework, but at Pivotal Labs, we're all about XP. XP core practices. I want to kind of just elaborate a little bit more on XP, our core practices, as I feel the challenges we encountered when moved to remote are tightly coupled with how we develop software on a daily basis. So great, as a lightweight agile framework, many of you may have the question, what's XP trying to accomplish there? Go fast forever. One main focus of XP is to adapt to change. We want to continuously deliver software into the hands of users, get their feedback, and quickly iterate on the product in response to that. In order to do that, we need to go fast forever. Of course, there's a lot of reasons which will slow down the team. Not enough engineers, staging production environment down, no pipeline, a CI pipeline. But there's always this one thing that slows team down, which is bad code. If we want to go fast forever, we have to have clean code. I know, like having clean code may sound super easy, but I'm not talking about at one point the code is clean. I'm actually talking about having clean code for most of the time during the development cycle. How can we keep our code clean? So it seems to keep your code clean, we have to constantly refactor it. Cool. Refactor. One thing we tend to always put it off. Maybe some engineers have really good discipline, but if I'm just gonna code on my own, I kind of tend to put it off, the last thing to do. Until one day the technical debt becomes too visible to ignore and we just have to refactor. But the truth is, at that point, especially with large monolithic application, we're always afraid to do the refactoring. We know the code is getting more and more messy, the architecture doesn't fit our product strategy, and we need to use better design patterns to solve tight coupling dependencies between our modules. But we're not ready for that because we're afraid of breaking things. We're afraid of the software not working after we refactor. To continuously refactor our code, we have to have confidence that after refactoring, whether small or large, we will still have a working software. Then what can give us this confidence? The only thing to get that confidence quickly is to write tests. I know some could argue that they can have the QA team writing tests for them. Remember, we're talking about Agile, right? Everything is about the speed to the market, speed to respond to the user interviews, like how they react to our product features. It would take too long for the product team engineers to know if the changes we made resulted in working software or not, if we just wait for another team to write tests for us. So, in conclusion, tests give you the confidence you need to refactor your code to keep it clean so that you can go fast forever. Now the question becomes, when do you do it? When do you actually write tests? And the answer is obvious. Everything depends on tests. They are the most important yet fundamental thing. So when do you do the most important thing? Obviously, you do that first. And that's TDD, test-driven development. And also that's the reason why we do TDD. Here you go, the number one practice in the XP, TDD. We stick to this and follow it by our heart. At the left is the famous red-green refactor graph. So to put it short, we first write the test before actually implementing a feature. We make sure the test fail, like with our own eyes. This is failing, and then we kind of like say, oh, so we expected it to fail at this kind of error when it was wrong. Maybe our expectation is wrong about the implementation code. And then we write the minimum code to make the test pass. This is to ensure we don't add on business logic in implementation, which our test doesn't cover. Once the test is green, we can have the freedom and confidence to refactor our code. Pair programming. Two engineers write the code together. I know many people have been skeptical about this. I joined Pivotal Labs a year ago and have been pair programming 8 hours a day for a year now. And yes, I'm still enjoying it. I think pair programming is great for sharing context across the team, giving and receiving feedbacks, like very instant feedbacks right at the moment you actually, like after you write that code, you can receive feedback from your pairs about how they think of your implementation, like is there any room, like how they would do it. And also learn something new from your pair all the time. Really helps us to stick with TDD. You have your pair there, it's not on your own. Small refactoring often. Try to keep code clean. At last, personally, I love it because other than technical knowledge exchange, I definitely became more conscious about, am I communicating this in a kind and respected way? Or am I showing empathy when my pair doesn't know something? Or am I being open-minded about other people's opinions? So I think it's a great way even for interpersonal skills. So cool. Other practices. CI/CD. CI stands for continuous integration. CD stands for continuous delivery. Normally, the first thing we do when we start a project is to set up a CI pipeline and figure out our deployment process. We want to be able to deliver working software as fast as possible and deploy small changes during each iteration. Autonomous team, code location of all roles, since cross-function communication is so important to our practices. When we were in the office, the product team used to sit right next to each other. When I say right next to each other, I didn't really just mean the engineers. I mean the PMs, the designers, and all the engineers who are actually gonna work on the product. We sit right next to each other. If we have anything we're not sure about, unclear about, we can just turn around and ask them. So very, very timely feedback and then instant communication. As you can imagine, since pair communication happen every day, cross-function communication happen every hour or so, are deeply rooted in our practice. We face a lot of challenges when shifting to a remote practice completely. I will have Kenyon address some of our remote challenges and I will pass to him.
And so about that, we just kind of briefly, Summer touched on XP and TDD and pairing and stuff, but Robert and Dan are gonna do another event kind of just focused on XP and go into detail about some of that, and people can probably ask questions and talk about like the practices of XP and where they come from on September 15th. So that is on WebHack's Compass as well, so check that out.
Yeah, we actually have Robert here. Robert, do you want to say hi?
Hi. Hi. Yeah, I work with Summer and Eric and Canyon. Yeah, Diane and I will go into a bit more detail about extreme programming next week and more about pair programming, TDD, and the practices and things like that we don't have time to cover today. But yeah, if you're interested, please register, and I look forward to it.
So the first thing I want to do is go back to the Slido, and let me switch to a different poll here. I was curious, like what kind of problems you all and your various teams may have encountered with doing whatever type of development you are doing, whether it's Agile or not, remotely. And this is just like free word enter, so feel free to enter like a short couple words or a single word even, or whatever you feel would be helpful to convey what issues you may have run into. And I'll just wait a little bit to get a couple things to come in. Can everyone see it okay? I don't see any questions coming in,
Yes.
so I'll just be patient.
If anyone doesn't know how this works, please ask in chat and we will reach out to help.
We have 1, lower productivity so far. Harder to maintain work-life balance. Indeed. Language barrier. Lots of Zoom meetings. I knew that was going to come up at some time.
わかんないところあったら、ぜひチャットで聞いてください。
Also, feel free to なんかポールでも日本語を使っても全然大丈夫です。Less communication, but probably it's good. Reaching out for help. Yeah, taking a long time to get a response. Different work time. Cool, I'll just like wait like a couple more seconds. Losing opportunity to chat casually. Yeah, that's a big one.
Definitely.
We have also experienced many of these, so some of them we'll probably talk on, and maybe some of them we can also talk in more detail about on the Q&A. But it's definitely interesting to see which parts overlap with everybody. Not much interaction during retrospectives. Ah, yeah. Totally, it can be harder to engage everyone too. All right, I'm gonna jump back to the presentation. That's all right. Cool. So specifically, the kind of challenges that we wanted to highlight, we kind of looked at all the different challenges we were having. And at least I myself came out of just doing a client project for 5 months. And it's basically remote the entire time, save the first week. And so that was a very big learning experience. So for me, a lot of this is coming from this last project I was on, but also, talking with other pivots who either just also finished a remote project or are starting one now as well. And so the main takeaways I had at least was there's a lot more communication overhead. And especially if it's a larger distributed team, it's not necessarily clear who to reach out to and like about what. And so that kind of echoes some of the questions we saw. Like it can be harder to get in contact with people, especially time zones, right? The other difficulty was meetings, controlling them especially, but also kind of in line with the there's too many meetings comment. It was easy for there to be too many meetings that maybe really didn't need to exist, because there was a lack of communication and there wasn't as much transparency about why there was a lack of communication. And in addition, it's harder to facilitate those meetings and make sure they're efficient and valuable. Also, we found that it can be a lot more draining in general, like especially if you are like us trying to spend the majority of your time on a video call with someone else pairing remotely. That is a lot more tiring than it would be without the latency, without having to use a screen basically in between you and that person. Also, transparency can be hard. It's not as easy to get visibility into who is working on what, and a lot of the advantages that we had from a co-located workspace aren't immediately there anymore unless you really work to create them, which we'll talk about. Also for pairing, remote pairing is inherently more difficult because it's only as good as your internet connection for one, and you have to have access to the right tools. We often had clients who didn't have the ability to access tools because of VPN issues with their work, and also sometimes they were forced to go to the office and they would have terrible internet connections actually in the office in comparison to what they had at home. And then also for the pivots and clients that have children, suddenly now at home you have work and screaming child behind you. So that was also a large issue that many people had. So first, to dig into communication overhead, here's some of the things that we've been trying out. So at least on my last project, we started using Discord to create voice channels for our team, for our client team. And we basically, us and the clients pairing together, we would have a Discord for the project. And there are other apps like this as well. I know Tandem is one that is also very similar and quite good. I've seen other ones online. But these voice channel chats provide a really good way to create a virtual workspace that feels more casual and easier to jump between who you're talking to on the fly. So we would create rooms for various different purposes that would simultaneously give us a space to have separated conversations that we could easily jump in and out of, but also kind of show the status of what we were doing. So we had rooms for each developer pair, room for design, room for PM, a room for the product team as a whole to come and meet up in, a room for everyone to meet in, like a private room for one-on-ones, and a place for like breaks and lunch. So you could kind of see what people were up to at a glance based on what room they were in, and just click on the room to come talk to them. And you could optionally turn your video on if you wanted to. And so it kind of took the place of a Zoom call for the most part for us. The other thing we did was to try and keep Zoom meetings just to, or whatever meeting software you're using, right? Just to official meetings. So normally in XP, a major part of XP is trying to keep the number of meetings to an absolute minimum so as to promote developer productivity, time to actually write code. And so traditionally, an XP team will only have like 3 meetings in the entire week. A pre-iteration planning meeting is like 30 minutes, an iteration planning meeting that's like 30 minutes, and a retro, which is an hour on Friday, right? At least that's how we do it. And so those we would do on Zoom because we wanted to make sure everyone had their camera on, and it worked out quite well. And then other than that, the only meetings we would do on Zoom is if we had to say talk with client stakeholders or someone outside of the team, someone else in the organization. And we tried to really prevent those from happening unless it absolutely needed to, because if it was just a sync up, we were like, we can do that on Discord if it's inside the team. The other thing is when we did have a meeting, we want to be very clear that that meeting has a clear purpose, a clear goal. And we like to call that a point B, as in where you are right now is your point A, where you want to be by the end of the meeting is your point B, and you have an agenda and a facilitator who is going to facilitate everyone's arrival from point A to point B within the allotted time you have. And so there's many different facilitation techniques that we use, whether that's getting everyone to work quietly to make sticky notes about their ideas and then share them in a group, grouping them, dot voting. There's many different techniques we kind of use to help make people prioritize as a group and give structure to these meetings. And we often use Miro to do that, which is a shared whiteboard app. And I think there's a couple different apps out there right now that people are using for remote work. So we found that very helpful. And while of course you need these kinds of facilitation, even when you're doing this in person, I think it seemed like it was even more important to make sure that we followed that more strictly when doing remote, because it was easy if someone started a meeting without a clear agenda, without a clear point B, it could easily take more time than it needed to and then precipitate another meeting being scheduled after. So we've tried very hard to improve and make sure we're really strict about facilitating meetings. Likewise, time boxing is a really helpful tool to make sure that things go according to agenda and you make sure you have space, the right amount of space to do everything. Miro has a great feature where it lets you actually turn on a timer inside the whiteboard and it shows to everyone on the bottom of the screen. And then the other one is just a basic part of kind of facilitation setup, which is to make sure that only the people you need to make the decision are in the meeting, because if tons of people had to be invited, it can easily make it harder for people to speak or less room for people to speak up, harder to come to agreement and harder to facilitate. Occasionally we would have client meetings. I've had client meetings where out of nowhere there'll be 50 people and everyone has their camera off. And then there might be a bunch of people who are like the bosses of some of our clients, and then they're afraid to speak now because so-and-so's boss is present. And at that point, you've kind of defeated the point of the meeting entirely. So as much as we could influence that and prevent that from happening and limit the number of participants, we tried to do that. The other challenge is things being more draining. So in general, remote work I've found can be much more exhausting. I think that was something that came up in one of the questions. Yeah, work-life balance, lots of Zoom meetings, lower productivity. And so to try to get around this more draining thing, we realized that in our practices in the office, one thing that was very effective was the way we would take breaks together and also like have ways to kind of refresh ourselves. We would play ping pong with our pairs or hang out in the kitchen area at our office. Uh, and it was easy to take a break in the physical space. But uh, in the remote space, it's easy to just kind of lose track of time and keep working. Even when you're pairing with people, you can just keep going until you realize you've used up all your energy and you're utterly exhausted. So one thing we would do is we would first set like core hours for pairing. So we might have our stand up. Like my team, what we did is we decided to have our stand up at our usual time at 9:16, and then after that we would reconvene at 10. So there's a little time for us to like maybe look at email or deal with other internal things or handle kind of stuff we needed to do personally. And then from 10 we would start pairing together. And then at 5 we would go back and have another hour of like, personal handle various tasks time. And that felt a lot more sustainable than what we were doing before in person, 9 to 6, which was easier in real life and harder when you're doing remote. The other thing that was helpful was trying to create a more casual atmosphere in our working space. In our physical office, we'd actually play music in the main event area. And so when you took breaks or whatever, you could kind of hang out and there was music and just chat. So we found that Discord has music bots. And so we added like 4 music bots, one for each pair basically. Because the last team I was on, we had 2 dev pairs and then the PM pair and the design pair. And so we would, each pair or when we did group sessions, we would just put on some background music. And the nice thing about these is you can set the sound individually for yourself. So if someone wanted it very slight, they could have it not very loud. You wouldn't have to worry about adjusting the volume for everyone. This also meant that like we could have conversations about the music we wanted to play, and it was kind of a good opportunity to have more casual interactions with people, even though we were online, which we were finding was difficult to recreate. Another thing in regards to breaks that we did is we had a like what we would call a QK taicho, someone who would take it as their responsibility to remember to say, okay, we're going to take a break and set time. Um, so kind of keep track of if we're taking enough breaks. So this might be per pair or per like group of pairs, so and that person could decide like how long and when to do it. And that helped because at first we realized we weren't taking enough breaks and therefore we were getting more tired and it was more exhausting. And in a retro that came up, which is where we decided to try this idea out. And after that, it became a lot easier to make sure we facilitated long enough breaks. And we also would be careful to make sure we took long enough breaks because maybe we could have gotten away with like a 10-minute break or something in the office. If you get really exhausted, I think it's okay to have like a 20-minute break and talking with the team to make sure that you're taking enough time to recharge and be able to come back and collaborate better seemed really valuable. Another thing that some teams did is they actually did radio taiso in the morning, so like exercising together with a video in the background as kind of like a team building thing and also a way to make up for the lack of like physical movement in remote workplace. So I think there's a lot of fun ways to experiment with how to make your virtual workspace feel more casual, more fun to work in, and more sustainable. The other issue has been transparency. So if you don't work very hard to show what you're working on or what others are working on, naturally you don't know what they're working on. And so it's easy to just kind of not be aware of all the other moving parts in your team. So a couple of things that have helped us with that so far is Discord. When you're sharing your screen, you can kind of hover over other people sharing the screen and see a preview of it. Even if you're not in that voice channel, which can be nice at a glance to see like, oh, they're working on the roadmap right now. Cool. Maybe I can go chat with them after they're done or whatever. And also, we try to make sure that we include everyone in major updates. So let's say the product team, design, and PMs have just finished a round of user research. We might want to make sure everyone is aware of our learnings. If we say nothing, it's quite possible that devs will never find out about what we just found out because it's not physically on the wall next to them like it used to be. So in that case, we might say, hey, everyone, let's meet in the main channel of Discord in like an hour, and we're gonna show you what we have in Miro and kind of make sure that when we introduce, we set aside time to kind of share with everybody on the team completely. Also, we use Pivotal Tracker, which is our tool for agile project management. And like, I mean, really, this could be true of any tool, but it's really valuable to have a single source of truth for like what the project's priority is and who is working on what. Preferably if it's very easy to read. One thing I like about Tracker is it's a lot less complex than most other management tools, so you can easily see like, oh, this person's working on this and it's done right now, or it's ready to be accepted, or they're working on it right now. So that was a good way for us to just be able to know who we should talk to. If the product team, for example, needs to talk to a development pair, we can see which people are currently pairing on it because Tracker will show that. Another transparency thing, likewise with Tracker, for similar to Tracker, for the product side design and PMs, we use Miro and Figma a lot, which both really handle the collaborative editing quite well as a source of truth for both design related decisions as well as product related decisions in terms of strategy or research, and that makes it easier to share with everyone because everyone can just log into one place and see the most recent version. So in many ways, these tools becoming central to our reality has made it even easier to not rely on documentation because it's all updated in one spot. And then remote pairing challenges. Summer's going to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, and you kind of see my picture over there. So quickly introduce what we use for remote pairing. As I just said, we pair 8 hours a day, so this is essential to us. So our set of tools is we use Discord to speak. So we stay on the dev voice channel on Discord. And then for screen sharing, we found Tuple has to work really well on the Mac OS machine. We've also tried a few others like Screen used together, but so far Tuple has the greatest experience. I highly recommend it if you want to try some screen sharing. And one of the biggest reasons we split voice and screen sharing is we want to create this environment of tap on the shoulder effect. As I mentioned before, cross-function conversation is crucial for us. For example, if I have something, if the pair and me have something we want to discuss with the other engineers, and we just want to go to their channel and quickly confirm something, we don't want to switch to Zoom, the overhead is just too much. And that can just be done on Discord, like seriously in 2 minutes. Also, when we do like design review and we want to talk with designers, we can just go to the design voice channel. So they will be there. They might be muted, but if we say something, they're gonna hear us. So we can just quickly find people we need. Oh, okay, sorry. I wasn't saying things in order. So the first thing is a yes, yes, yes. So good internet is a must. So if you don't have good internet while you do remote pairing, it's really, you can't really get anything done. You can't hear your pair, what your pair is saying. And that kind of like, then you can't respond, you can't be engaging, and you can't really do screen sharing because there will be low resolution. So make sure you have good internet. Also, switch the host who will share their screen. When you share the screen, that actually means the whole screen. So it can be really tiring because you can't really do anything else and your pair is watching your screen. So make sure you kind of change, maybe just morning, afternoon, or every other day, not just like one person always sharing. Okay, I just covered Tuple. Take break often as remote pairing can be tiring. Pairing can be tiring in person, and with remote, when you forget to take breaks, you can just keep working and staring at the screens, and then it's very energy draining. So make sure you and your pair kind of conscious about okay, we need to take like 15 minutes break, 20 minutes break in the morning, or every 1 hour, an hour and a half, then that can totally help, like we have our full attention and not feel exhausted after a day of pairing. Yeah, that's it from my part on this slide.
Cool. So that covers the main content we wanted to go over. And so we're just gonna take a quick break so we can can grab some water and stuff, and we can all take this time also to fill out Q&A and maybe like other Q&A. So it doesn't look like anyone has put in any questions into the audience Q&A thing on Slido. So this would be a great opportunity to go in there and then try sending a question. For example, if I add a quick question, like, I don't know, what is pair design like? I'll add one real fast and you can see it show up. It
Why did you
should.
have Chinese music?
What, I have Chinese? I had Chinese music?
Yeah, there was one playing. Okay.
You don't know what. But anyway, it should show up. I guess there is some, it's just not showing them. Anyway, I'll try to figure out how to get it to show the Q&A stuff. And then we'll go over that when we get back. Sound good?
Yep. Any questions, please feel free to put it down in any other language you feel comfortable in.
Right. How do I activate it? Aha, okay. I see one question. Good.
Kenny, you're
Cool.
supposed to take a break.
Yeah, I know. I'm just checking. I wanted to just see. Cool.
Okay, I grabbed some water, and then for those who haven't had chance to have dinner, make sure you grab some snacks. It's totally fine. You can eat. Like no rules about that. So.
All right. Looks like we have a good amount of questions, so maybe we can get started. All right.
Okay, I'm back.
Summer, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Goody. Okay, let's look at them. First question has the most likes is how do introverts in your team manage so much communication? That's a good question. Let's see. Also,
Very
I
good
think
one.
Robert and Summer, we have Robert and Summer too, so we can all three try to answer questions. Summer, what do you think?
I think I need a little bit like more precise definition of introverts. Are they shy to speak kind of introvert, or is it like they don't really want to speak? So if like it's the former case, we really encourage people to speak, and then especially the team is normally like not too large, and then you kind of just speak one with your pair like most of the time. So there's plenty of room for your pair to actually kind of ask you questions. So you don't have to really like think about what I'm gonna ask, what I'm gonna speak. So if your pair is kind of more extrovert, so he would definitely do that. And if you really just don't like communication, so I guess it's kind of hard, yeah, doing pair programming, since we have to kind of share our ideas on different things and exchange opinions.
If
I'm
we
sorry.
follow the definition that Gabrielle pointed out in the comments about introversion being like it costs energy to consume with to communicate with people, then I think there's inherently things that are going to be really difficult about pairing in general, right? So I think at Pivotal we definitely are hiring people who are capable of pairing because we pair with our clients as a mechanism not only to make the process work but also to share the process with other companies. But inherently not everyone we pair with is super extroverted, and it's not like extroversion should be a requirement either. So I think it's very important to adjust how you pair to who your pair is and how you work to who your pair is. And I think in general, these practices should be adjusted to fit your team, and the strengths they have in their who they are personally, right? So what we found is that, at least what I've found, is if I'm working with someone who's very introverted, I try my best to make a lot of space to go for them to go at their what they're comfortable with in terms of the speed of working together, and be very careful that I don't like kind of take too much energy from them, so to speak. Try to be conscious of that. And if there are parts that they would prefer to do separately and parts that we definitely need to do together, can also like kind of adjust that to find a good balance. So I think it depends on who your team is made up of and what is going to be the most efficient way to take advantage of the tools. Because regardless, pairing is a tool for accomplishing knowledge sharing across teams, and essentially removing the asynchronousness of code reviews by making them simultaneously. So depending on how you communicate, I think there are ways to make it more comfortable for people who do not like that level of communication. But it definitely, if someone absolutely just does not want to talk to people, they are probably going to just struggle with pairing overall. So I think it's about finding that balance. Personally, and that's what we've tried to do. That's what I've tried to do.
Yeah,
I don't
also,
know, Robert, if you have anything to say about that.
yeah, I might also add to that I guess it's kind of a learned skill as well. It gets a bit easier over time. Like I remember when I first started pairing, I found it difficult and I found it really tiring. Just having to verbalize your thoughts and discuss solutions to problems in great detail. But you do get better at it. And I think even for those that might consider themselves really strongly introvert, I think when they sort of practice this skill and they get better at it and they get more confident at, talking about their thoughts and, giving their opinions and all of that, they will probably may begin to enjoy it more. But as Canyon said, you know, for those people who really do not enjoy it or struggle with it, then we try and adapt the process to take their needs into consideration, for sure.
Cool. I'm gonna go to the next question if that's all right. Just because I know we want to try to finish up by 9 and we still have some time for retro. So I'm gonna try to hit these other 2 questions. So how did you decide the pairs in terms of skill? Is it preferable to pair similar level engineers or the other way, like senior and junior? The answer is we kind of do both. So for example, if it was 2 pivots pairing, it's great to do pairing if you're on the same level. You get to go really fast and it feels wonderful and very efficient. At the same time, if your goal in pairing is to also help onboard someone, help them understand not only like the process or the product better, pairing someone senior or junior is a really good way to accomplish it. So I think it depends on what kind of outcome you're aiming for. Because we rotate pairs every day, we generally get a combination of this, where one day you might be pairing with someone on your same level, one day you might be pairing with someone on a different level. Anything to add, Summer, Robert?
Yeah, so I can totally speak to that. First of all, thank you, Frank, for the question. And how do you decide the pairs in terms of skill? Of course, if we're going to go on the project with, let's say, if it's iOS and Android, we probably want to have someone, like at least one in iOS and one in Android, just to set the ground. But other than that, speaking of like level of junior or senior, we just don't have that kind of borderline. Like, okay, it's more about who hasn't worked on this track. So we're trying to get everyone to get the context of the code base. And so speaking of senior and junior level, so that maybe kind of varies the pairing style. So maybe the senior will do more like driving and kind of show the junior how the code base works and try to get the junior person more familiarized with the code base as fast as possible. And that's especially the case when you're trying to onboard new members, not regardless if they are junior or senior, if they don't really know anything about the code base. And also you can have some totally like 2 juniors on the same track as well. And then I'm pretty sure it will be good learning for them to figure things out. And just always remember you have other senior members around you as well. And if not in your team, you have them in the office, so you can always ask. So I think that one is just maybe the pairing style changes, but we don't really have the preference to kind of who pair with who, because we tend to rotate every day and try to get everyone to pair with everyone. Yep, that was from me.
Cool.
Frank, do you feel that answers your question? Oh, sorry, I didn't ask you over.
Maybe I didn't notice that you guys are actually rotating it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get into too much detail of that part since it's kind of XP thing. Sorry.
Great. Thank you anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to pair with the same person for every day, but
Yep.
Just saying.
Which kind of segues into the other question, which we can quickly touch upon before we need to go to the retro part. And then the rest of the questions we will answer, but we'll put them in a doc and then that will get sent out afterwards. So don't worry, we'll still try to cover them all, but we'll just have to be a little bit slower. So last one is, what if your teammates don't like each other? And totally, that would be a very big problem. But I think often the reason why people don't like each other is because of the structure of the team and organization that has led people to have these experiences where they really dislike working with each other and have not able to give each other feedback. And I think it's so important for when you're building a team to be building it around good feedback and the ability to give each other feedback in small bits so that it doesn't build up and turn into someone hating you. So of course that's going to be a lot harder if you're in a team that has been struggling and has a lot of animosity towards one another that is built up over time. That might be really hard to change. But say you were building a new team or you just got hired into one, and you want to prevent that from happening, I think that those communication methods, making it easier for people to give feedback, having a pattern of giving feedback on a regular basis, and making it so that people can talk to one another about how they're doing, will help like even out the inherent bumpiness of humanity, which is very important for pair programming, and a team is rotating pairs all the time. So it's like these little tiny work acts of like improvement and empathy that together will make a team avoid having these like issues where you hate one another, which I've totally experienced in previous companies. And I personally felt like at least what I experienced was due to the organizational structure and the power structure and the inherent personalities of people and how they chose to react in those power structures, created a lot of animosity between individuals. Anything
Totally
to
agree
add?
with that. Yeah, just something quick add. So I feel like if someone doesn't like someone, there always a reason. But if you just dislike someone for nature, then I think that can be helped. So let's say if there is a reason, normally, and I think either it can be like you don't feel respected by your pair, and or you just feel like offended by some of his comments or her comments. So that causes you to not kind of feel the tension when you work with them. And one of our core values is we want to be open and really can make everyone feel safe sharing their feelings. Not just like, okay, so he says something, I think what he means, so I'm just not gonna talk to him. It made me feel uncomfortable, but I don't want to talk with him about it. So we always encourage, if there's anything like your concerns, then just share with the people who are causing those concerns. As we are getting better, I know it's really, really hard. Sometimes you just want to let it go, but with pairing, it's kind of like you can't ignore it. But why not just be open and then try to solve why was the issue? Yeah. Okay, that was
Cool.
from
If
me.
it's okay, do you want us switch over
Okay.
to doing the retro?
Yes.
There's a Google Doc with the questions, so we'll drop that in the chat, and we won't have answers yet, but we'll fill out answers after this, and then I think they'll send it, WebHack people will send it out again and be like, hey, we filled it out.
Yeah, I saw someone asking for like if there's a demo about Tuple, and I'm sorry we don't have time tonight, but I will reach out individually, and then maybe we can schedule a time like 15 minutes, and me and my pair will kind of like demo around how Tuple works. So I hope that's fine. Really thank everyone for staying this late. Let's just do this very quickly. Okay. Cool.
Do you want to just like, yeah, open up post facto and talk about it while we get everyone onto the link?
Okay, let's just do that. I'll skip the intro about the retro. Let's see. So just some quick pictures how we do retro. When we are in the office, we almost always do it like the last thing of the Friday, and we want to be relaxed as possible. So we like encourage people to drink beer and then eat whatever they want. We have a lot of office Slack, and then kind of reflect what's going on the week, and kind of picture. We have more snacks than that, I promise. And after switch to remote, we're using this tool called Postfacto. And you can see the left column is just, you can write down anything you feel happy about or anything you learned. And then the middle one is just neutral, confused, or you're just like not sure. The red one is you feel there's lacking and blocked and to improve. And for our event tonight, I want to do this like a quick retro with everyone, just give you a taste. I know some of you have already experienced Agile, but just bear with me. Let's do this together and give you a taste of how we do retro. If everyone can go to this link and then let us know if you're having trouble with it in the chat.
I put the link in the chat, so
Oh,
hopefully
okay, perfect.
everyone
Then
can
just
click
click
in.
on it.
Yeah, and you can just start adding things in the happy
Yep.
column, the meh column,
Yep.
the sad column, respectively.
Exactly.
Maybe we can take like five-ish minutes and let people like we're gonna
Yep.
write, and then because we have so much limited time, we can start going over some of the questions. And you can hit a heart icon. Unfortunately, this tool's one letdown is the heart icon is easy to not click, which causes it to open. So I'll go around resetting that, but yeah.
Don't hesitate to put anything you feel like, this might be better if we do like this. Just put it in the red column. Any critical feedback is welcome. And also the neutral one as well.
Anything is good.
We want to provide
Anyway.
better events, but I know it's really hard while we're remote. So we're trying to get ideas of how the event is received by you all. So we can improve in the future with better events. Is it just me or like the music just?
Oh, it just went to a really quiet song.
Have like whoever wrote this, you're a genius, so kind of say hi. Can you just unmute for me? Okay,
Yeah.
so you wish there would be snacks?
Yeah, I think my team also had this kind of problem because we also used to have snack, but I can't just ask everybody bring snack and have the ritual together. So yeah, same problem.
Totally. Snacks are
Nice.
great.
Nice, we all miss snacks. Okay, next time when we do in-person events. Okay. The Slido polls and questions were really great. Can I just have whoever wrote this?
Yeah, that was me. I think
Okay.
somebody else. Yeah, I didn't know, but I don't think I've seen Slido before, and I thought that was good that you could get those polls while you're giving the presentation. I think somebody asked a similar question too up the top, so maybe they want to say something too.
This one? Yep.
Yeah.
Can I have whoever wrote this one? Just quickly unmute and then kind of share thoughts about this. Okay, then I guess I move on. Yeah, it's our first time using Slido and it has been great and I think it's really nice. Okay,
Let's do some of the ones in the middle.
Sorry, it just caught my attention. Zach, do you want to answer this question? He's our big boss. Come on.
Are you an engineer who's asking this question? In general, we are always looking for good people. So if you're interested, then please contact us. What's the easy way? You can contact us through this group, and your message will be forwarded to me.
That's your answer. You didn't put down your name, but if you did, we probably will remember you.
You can reach out to us.
Okay, cool. And let's see. Thank you everyone for participating. Is it for Kenyon?
I just put that down just so that people could see how it worked.
Oh, all right.
But
all right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for staying late, and this has been very fun for me. Sorry, I could just kind of click on this. Did you click on it?
Oh, I saw the one that just got opened about wanting to throw beer at people instead.
Oh, okay. During my
That
team's
sounds
retro
rough.
meeting, I often feel it is not that relaxing, so I kind of don't want to drink beer, but I want to throw beer at people instead. Who wrote this? Come on, don't be shy. Seriously? I want to hear your stories. Okay, then nobody wants to admit that they want to throw beer at people, I guess.
Sounds rough though.
Okay.
Um,
Cool. And
let's see, there were some other ones I thought would be nice to do.
can I
Yeah,
just quickly do this one? Yeah, so originally I had some slides about just the differences between XP and Scrum. But then we decided to take it out because we kind of focus on remote, meaning like the challenges of doing remote Agile. And then this topic would definitely be covered by Robert in his talk on September 15th. So if you're interested, so you can also register for that event. And I will kind of donate my slides to him, but he can choose if he wants it or not.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I have had that question asked a few times, so definitely make sure to include it in the next presentation. So please come along, whoever it.
Okay, so okay, music. This is a nice one. Can I at least have whoever wrote this one?
That was me. But I think
so
others had the same idea.
I saw Gabriel is laughing so hard. What happened?
I know that chucklehead.
Oh, okay. So are you guys co-workers?
Yes.
Nice.
I'm glad some people like the music idea. I hope it helps.
I liked
we're
it a
inspired
lot.
by our music bot thing in Discord, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of relaxing, you know, it's evening. And oops, sorry. And okay, let's pick 2 more items and then call it a day. So this kind of, I want to talk on this waiting room at the beginning. Can I just have whoever wrote this one share kind of concerns? Is it just like very inconvenient? So we made this decision since we kind of worried about our Zoom security thing. So we don't want it to be like too open, like everyone can enter. So we heard some stories like people can just enter and then like send random pictures, and then that kind of distracting. So we did it for security purpose. Yeah, but we probably will kind of try to improve on better solutions for this.
But if the person who wrote it has any suggestions about like what made it frustrating to have the waiting room or whatnot, that'd be awesome to share.
Yep.
That was also me. So pretty much I joined at 7:30, and it took a good couple of minutes until I got, and I was just like thinking if I'm at the right meeting at the right time.
Totally makes sense.
Thank you. Okay, check this off. Okay, last one. Okay, actually, we can do two. This one, if 90 minutes is too long or too short. Yeah, I want to hear this kind of thoughts on this. I'm not sure. This is our kind of experiment. Does it feel too long or too short? Okay, if you feel it's too long, please just like 1, and then if you feel it's okay, it's manageable, then maybe send 2 in the chat. Yeah, we want to adjust to, we don't want it to be too long, and then maybe we can kind of make the talk shorter.
Or whoever wrote this, what were you thinking? Because he said both. I thought that was interesting.
I wrote it, so a lot of it is sort of a fire hose of information, and that makes me go, I want to know more, but it's also 9 o'clock.
Totally. Yeah, when
Thank
we were
you.
setting it up, I was like, we're going to do a lot, but we've all been working online all day. Like, how do meetups work in this era where we're tired of staring at screens already? But these are kind of compromise in that middle area.
Thank you so much for staying. This has been very, very like meaningful for like Kenny and me. So
I saw there was a question about the public Jira, like about retro boards, and I just wanted to say, so this app is one that some pivots in Australia made, and it's open source, so you can actually host your own version of it if you want to have a local instance of it to do retros.
Yeah, you can just create a team on it, and then you can make it public or just set your password, so you can totally use it.
Yeah, we can put the link to the GitHub in the Google Doc or something.
Okay.
Or I'll go find it right now.
And I want to cover this one. I think this one is important. Where can I find the answers to the questions on Slido?
So I know there's a Google Doc now that Fangda created, but I wasn't sure how we were planning to share it. I can share a link to it right now, and it doesn't have any answers in it, but we will fill out the answers.
Okay,
I don't know if that's the best way to do it. And then
what do you guys think?
Hopefully we can then also put it on the event or something. I don't know. Anyway, here's the Google Doc link below the Pivotal Post Facto link. We will fill out the questions sometime soon. I'll try to look into it after this ends.
Great, thank you. And how XP can work for long-term projects?
Well, do you have time to try and just like chat about it? I guess we have like 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah. I know we don't have enough time, and we will put this as a question in the Google Doc and share with
Yeah, let's add that.
With you.
I'll add it in now.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we're gonna close this retro with one last item. So this one, presentation, I can see your teamwork is great. Really flattered, thank you. Can I just have whoever wrote this?
It's me, Ginny. Yeah, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really nice to hear good feedback. So thank you. All right, so it's night already. And thank you so much for, I know 90 minutes is really kind of long Tuesday night. Thank you so much for staying until the last minute, and hopefully see you around in the next event.